Hello everyone, welcome to my channel. It's Lewis P here. So today is actually going to be the first part in a series of many videos where I do an in-depth analysis of what WoW, World of Warcraft is versus vanilla WoW. Now, I'm actually going to, within this series, talk about live versus vanilla, live versus BC, live versus Cataclysm, Mists, WoD, all of them. So what's cool about this is I can actually structure it into a video series, similar to what I did with the masterclass. So this will be the part one, and make sure to subscribe to the part one or to the playlist, and you'll see me create as I go. Of course, with all my videos, I'm going to try and keep them so condensed, but also very informative at the same time. That's because I'll try and keep them around 10 to 12 minutes each, just to make everyone's, life a bit easier. So this will be part one of vanilla WoW versus live World of Warcraft. So this is going to be fun. Get ready. I'm doing this is because the last video I did, which is called Is Vanilla WoW the Best Version of WoW? 150 hours into a vanilla private server, is because I did that as an ad hoc. That wasn't meant to get this type of response from you guys. So thank you very much for that. That's actually amazing to see that type of response from the community that I've always been a part of. I started the game when I was around 16 years old. I'm 28 now. I'm a marketing director for a company now. Luckily, I've been fortunate. Went to uni, did all of that, and WoW has definitely played a role in that. Just because of where I've been and how it's taught me how to manage things, especially guilds. So if you were running a 40-man guild back in the day, all the skill sets of managing the people, the time management, preparation, 100% it translates into the real world. So it's great. So let's do the overview of what WoW vanilla is versus relative to the modern day WoW. Now, like I said in the original video, I've been playing for a long time. I've played through every single expansion, and we're talking night releases. In Australia, they'd come out at 12 o'clock, and I'd be up until, 4, 5, 6 a.m. going to sleep, then waking back up at 1 p.m. at the time, and, hitting it and just trying to get that level cap as fast as possible. But, during quests, I wasn't just grinding it out. I was really playing the game the way it was intended. Each expansion, apply that to every expansion ever released. So yeah, let's do a quick deep dive, just because, these are some points that I think are very important. So one, let's go straight to the elitism within, the community. The elitism in vanilla WoW is sort of like, the best way for me to describe it would be sort of like $1 million club. So let's say in real life, there was a club that was exclusive to people that only earned more than $1 million a year, or like 10 million, something ridiculous, right? That's what it sort of feels like as someone that's leveling in vanilla WoW. If you're not a part of that club, you're sort of like shunned, no matter how good you are at the game. But how good you are at the game can also really shine and get you really far at the game as well. But ultimately, there's this sense of elitism. If you don't have the gear, people don't talk to you. Okay, if you don't have the income within that $1 million club, you're not going to join the club. So that's the type of vibe that I get when I play vanilla WoW, like on a private server. And I still remember from back in the day, that was the sort of vibe that you got. But obviously different guilds are different everywhere. However, when you have a private server and, these guys are just like, they're a very close bunch, it's hard to break into that mold of who they are, even if you're super nice and polite. So let me know if you guys actually feel that when you play in your private servers. Like, it's hard to get into those guilds, into that community, but sometimes it's very welcoming as well. So most of the time that I felt like it was very elitist. There was so much elitism in that community. However, there was also the other side of that as well, which was, some guys really wanted to, some girls as well, girls and guys really wanted to, get to know you and, who you are, and they would help you out. There was one particular lady that was helping me out so much, and you know who you are. And I'll never forget that. So thank you very much for helping me level by, I couldn't do a quest, because as a rogue, you can't do more than, you can't kill more than 2 mobs at a time. So, unless you have to blow all your cooldowns. So it's like 2 mobs every 5 minutes, because you have evasion and slice and dice up and blade flurry, I believe it is, with 20% attack speed plus 2 mobs. So yeah, you had to have those cooldowns up. So I won't ramble too much. And then on the other side of on the underside, so modern WoW, it really is, because there's so many more players, there's so much more variety in terms of personality within guilds. So of course you're going to have the elitist guilds, and then on the other side you're going to have like the really serious, like professional guilds, if you will. So back in the day they were known as like Genesis for us, very serious. Those guilds were like, they were a cool bunch of guys, really down to earth, but they weren't elitist at the same time. They would trial people out. They were very, welcoming. On the other hand, you'd get the underdogs, if you will, and they were the elitist ones. They had something to prove, but also let me know in the comments if you've ever actually experienced that from a guild. You're trying to get into a guild, but these people are just so toxic that the overall process just becomes so painful to begin with, and you're just like, I don't even want to play this right now. The next point would have to be the demographics. So there's nothing wrong with the demographics that is currently in live and vanilla. They're actually very much exactly the same. So that's great. However, when you have a population of live versus vanilla for that matter, it comes down to a few things. So, when the game was released, 04, 05, 06, I consider that the release period, then there weren't as many people playing the game to begin with. And that's exactly the same as vanilla WoW. Private servers as well. Granted, the ratio is ridiculously different. You were talking about 300,000 people in live versus, max 150, 200 people in a private server that I'm familiar with. So, there's a timing factor, which means, okay, there weren't as many female to male gamers. I'd probably say back in vanilla, it's about 1 to 10. For every 10 males, there's one, female person playing the game. Whereas now, live is actually much easier, and it's much more friendly with respect to the ratios. And I'd probably put it on at around maybe 7 to 1, 6 to 1, 5 to 1. And then obviously I don't have these numbers, but you feel it when you play the game. So that's really good and healthy for the girls that play the game, so they can play with their own community if they don't want to be exposed to males in their guilds, because us guys, right, we can be very toxic. The next component, number 3, would have to be time commitment. Before, I did discuss this in my last video, which is fine. However, I didn't go into enough detail. So today in live WoW, you can log on, which is fine, and then you can do your half an hour and get all your dailies done, and then you can be raid ready within a few days, maybe 2 weeks tops. And you can do that through dungeon finders, and you can do that through daily quests, etc., etc., etc. Which is great for someone that works full time. They run a business, and they also run a little YouTube channel. So these are the reasons why the game for me right now, live WoW, is just so much better. And that doesn't mean I'm discrediting the other vanilla WoW life, the way the game was built. Luckily for me, when I was 16, 17, 18, I had all the time in the world. So, I didn't have my job. I didn't have my, commitments, my bills to pay. So now I do. And I was lucky. I have to just say I was very, very lucky during the time, because I played WoW during the time where you had to put all the commitment in, and now I'm also playing during the time when I don't have to put the commitment in to get where I want to be, which is great. Another component of that is dungeon times. That's another huge one. Back in the day, vanilla WoW, BC WoW as well, and probably not so much Wrath, you couldn't just steam through dungeons. Dungeons like, LBRS, UBRS, they took hours to complete, multiple wipes, multiple gears. And if you're lucky and you don't get ganked on the way to the dungeon, that also plays into it as well. So there are so many different things, little things as well. And a few guys nitpicked on me last time about talking about this. Even just tiny things like mounting up is a massive time waster back in vanilla WoW. From 4 seconds, 3 seconds to now 1.5. Over 1,000 mounts is what a typical player does. More than 1,000 mounts. God, there's so many mounts that you do in and out. It's like, probably not out, just in. It's hours of time just mounting. There are so many tiny different things that make the game so much more time consuming. Also, flying mounts. Flying mounts speeds the game up. Yes, granted, flying mounts kill PvP, and I discussed that last time. I was really heavy on that. It destroys PvP. It ruined it. And that doesn't mean because it's live versus vanilla. That's BC versus vanilla. That's from, 10 years ago versus vanilla. And everybody talks about this. Gungeon talks about it. If you don't know who Gungeon is, he was one of the best PvE raiders back in the day. Like, he did world firsts. Like, he killed Illidan first. He did all the big stuff first. Naxxramas, he did it. He says it. And when someone like Gungeon says, yeah, you know, Flying Mounts killed the WoW, yeah, it did. And okay, in live WoW, yes, they've mitigated that, which is okay, which is great actually. You know, because, you know, you level without Flying Mounts now, which is the best. And then you do your, you know, you get into a new zone and then you don't have Flying Mounts there because you have to quest your way and grind your way to getting a Flying Mount. That's great. However, as soon as you get that Flying Mount, you're not going to be able to do that. There's no PvP. And that's fine for me because I like that. Because I don't want to spend 10 years, you know, running to my dungeon, getting ganked on the way and calling my mates to come and all of that. So that's fine. So that pretty much, you know, sums up the time commitment. The last component I want to talk about in this specific video, there'll be more later on with respect to, you know, threat, gear dependency and technology, but that'll be in separate videos. So then the last point I really want to just briefly describe, because I want to make a complete video on this topic alone, and that's PvP. PvP is very important for me because I played it dedicated, like I was so dedicated to PvP back in BC, all the way to, you know, I loved it even in vanilla, but we're talking about structured PvP now, and not outdoor, because you already know my thoughts on outdoor. So structured PvP is really just arena and battlegrounds. Now, there was no rated battlegrounds in BC, so we're comparing BC and live right now. In BC, there was just, it was a junkyard. It was a complete junkyard. No one knew what the hell was going on. Everyone knew that, you know, warrior, druid, healer, right? Resto druid was amazing. You know, everyone knew that, you know, priest, rogue was really powerful, but no one knew about like the priest warlock comp, SLSL, you know, stuff like that, where they only had one DI and they had to, you know, the priest had to be very tanky to survive because they'd just get beaten on all the warglaive rogues. So there are a lot of things that I really enjoyed, and I prefer these types of games in general, and that's when games are chaotic and developers don't know what they're doing. That's actually a really, really good sign in my mind, because when developers don't know what they're doing, that means no one else knows what they're doing. And you know, this is a very large topic, and you know, Cutie Pie talks about this in League and compositions, and it's so true. When a developer doesn't know what they're doing, then the game is chaotic, and I love chaos. The reason chaos is great is because metas are so slow to form and counter metas are happening and all of this. So, you know, season 1, season 2, season 3, season 4 of BC, even like Wrath was super fun, but they introduced haste and these new specs. But, you know, season 1, 2, 3, 4 was so fun to me because it was so chaotic. And that's also true for, you know, other games as well. League of Legends, season 1, 2, 3 was so fun, and then they, you know, they went into the whole theme park design approach where they dictate where the game goes in a way, where the meta is. Unfortunately. So the point I'm making here is, guys, I definitely miss BC a lot compared to where it is now with respect to metas. I don't like metas, to be honest. I like chaos in games because it means no one has a clue and you can discover new things on your own. It's not like, okay, I'm just going to go onto a website and figure out what the best comp is and then execute on that comp. Unfortunately, that's a very bad state of when a game is like that. I hate it personally. So yeah, I'll make another video on PvP alone because there's so much I can talk about with respect to design decisions, where the game was. But overall, guys, this is going to be my first part of WoW Vanilla versus live modern WoW. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you got a little bit more value than my last video. So if you liked it, guys, give it a thumbs up. Comment. I really want to hear your thoughts on this because everyone has different opinions and no one is correct and no one is wrong. Because ultimately, guys, we're all in this together and we ultimately just want to make a much better gaming environment for all of us. So I hope you join my little community. I hope you enjoy the series that I'm about to start creating. There will be a link in the description for all the other versions. Next up is going to be really fun. So welcome to the community, guys. Lewis P out.